Sometimes things can be brewing just beneath the surface in our romantic relationships, and it can throw us off because it can feel like it's pulling us in a different direction, in a direction quite possibly that we don't even want to be going in. Today I have a Reddit story that I want to share that highlights the importance of allowing the process to unfold and circling back to very important and honest conversations in our relationships. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. My name is Raquel Perez, and I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Colorado. I specialize in things like sex therapy, relationship therapy, ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, therapy for depression, and anxiety. This is where I share my own lived experiences and others' lived experiences, and I also share how my mind and body is making sense of the information. So with that, let's go ahead and start with a Reddit story. The story is husband 30 male and I 28 female opened our relationship and now everything is terrible. This first entry is the 18th of August of 2023. My husband and I have been married for 6 years, together for 8. My husband, I'll call him Eric, has always been a really intense person, but he's a good man. When we got together, I noticed he had a much higher sex drive than I did, but I would usually have sex with him when I wasn't in the mood anyway because I love him. He's never vocalized any problems until somewhat recently. I should also mention, just before we got married, we talked about having kids. I'm indifferent to kids, whereas he doesn't want them, so we agreed not to have them. Over the last year, my sex drive has been almost non-existent. I've been checked by doctors and they say that nothing is wrong physically, but I should talk to a therapist, which I haven't done yet. I haven't even been able to just have sex with him to have sex like I was doing. About 4 months ago, he sat me down and we talked about all this, and he said he needs sex, which I told him I understood, but I can't give him that right now. We argued for a bit, and he ended up sleeping on the couch. In the morning, he suggested we open the relationship. I was heartbroken. He explained that we either give this a try or end the relationship. So I agreed. We set boundaries, no bringing the person to our house ever, no talking about it, always use protection, and regularly get tested. He agreed to all of this. I was actually surprised how okay I was with this as the months moved along. Even when he'd text me that he's going to be late, or when he'd kiss me and tell me he has plans that night, it almost felt like a burden was lifted from me. Well, yesterday, my husband sat me down again and said he had something really difficult to tell me. For the last couple of months, he's been seeing this one girl, and she's pregnant. I think I dissociated a little because I heard him talking but couldn't understand the words he was saying. When I came back to reality, I asked if it was his and is he keeping it? Yes and yes. And he plans on being in this child's life actively. I asked him who she was, and he told me, it's someone I know. Not well, but I do know who she is. I'm utterly heartbroken. I haven't told family or friends yet. I asked him not to. I asked him if he wants a divorce. He didn't say so. He's basically leaving it up to me. So I guess my question is, do I cut my losses and move on, or give this marriage another try? There's an update. And the update was written a couple days later on August 20th of 2023. We're getting a divorce. He came home yesterday afternoon and we had a long, very emotional talk. I asked him questions that I never asked when he told me she was pregnant. He admitted to not using protection. He says he never slept with her before we opened the relationship, but he did kiss her. He said she's the only one he's slept with. He said that night before he gave me the open or divorce ultimatum, when we argued about sex, was a last-ditch effort to get me to work on things. He admitted that he should have just asked for a divorce instead of asking to open the relationship. He also said I share some blame in this marriage falling apart, which I agree with. I asked him if he remembers if I was always like this. He said in the first 1 to 3 years of our relationship, I was enthusiastic about having sex, even if my sex drive was low. He admitted he hasn't been in love with me for a while, and he is in love with this other woman. I asked why he suddenly wants kids. He said he slowly changed his mind about kids over the years, but never said anything because our relationship has been so broken that it wouldn't have mattered. He thinks I didn't go to therapy because of my parents. They're very conservative and religious, and believe if you pray hard enough, God will give you the answer. And he thinks I subconsciously have an aversion to therapy because of them. I asked him if he hasn't been in love with me for a while, why not divorce me when he had realized that? He told me he loves me, and he was in love with me once, and he wanted to make his marriage work. When he kissed her, he realized it was probably too late, but said there was a part of him that didn't want to leave me. He never expected to fall in love with her. He asked me if I was still in love with him, and I said I didn't know. He said that probably means no. We agreed a divorce is the best thing we can do for ourselves and each other. We also agreed to make the divorce as painless as possible. I want to sell the house. He agreed and said he'll move out in the meantime. He said whatever he doesn't take with him, I can keep or sell. We didn't talk about alimony or anything. I'll let my lawyer and his lawyer deal with that. But I'm not sure that I'm entitled to it since I work a decent job. And from what I've read, in my state, that might be enough for a judge to say no. I feel pretty numb right now. I don't think I have the energy to cry anymore. I still haven't told anyone. He said he'll wait to tell people until we get lawyers involved because it's going to be a mess with family and friends once they find out. Anyway, that's all. He's gone and I'm laying in bed, still processing everything. Surprisingly, I don't hate him. I'm not mad. I made a promise to myself to contact a therapist on Monday, and I'm holding myself to that this time. I want to thank everyone for the advice, as harsh as some of it was. So the one thing that is sitting with me about this story is how she describes that opening the relationship was like a burden that was lifted from her. The reality is that in this relationship, from the story, it sounds like there was a mismatch that was happening, a misalignment when it came to their sex lives. He had a high sex drive and she had a lower sex drive. And once we start to notice mismatches or misalignments in relationships, once we notice they're there, we need to figure out how to move forward. For this relationship, they originally thought that opening the relationship would allow this to happen. And it worked for a little bit. And for her, it sounds like it also allowed this burden to come off of her. However, as the story continues, we realize that there were other things that were brewing just beneath the surface, and it sounds like they were things that were very difficult for them to come to terms with. Once they circle back around and they have that very honest and emotional conversation about what to do in the relationship, he admits to her that he hasn't been in love with her for a very long time, and that in fact, he probably should have asked for a divorce instead of giving the ultimatum to open the relationship or just separate. It sounds like there was stuff coming up inside from him that was indicating that he no longer wanted to be in that relationship. However, the fact that he was in love with her at once, and the fact that he did care deeply for her even as all of this was happening, made him start to cloud what was happening in his mind. And this is all completely understandable. The reactions are completely understandable when you think about this truth coming up inside of him that he no longer is in love with his wife. And how is he going to come to her and tell her that? The other thing is that once they allowed these conversations to unfold, and once they allowed the process to unfold, and they circled back around with this very emotionally intense and honest conversation about what was happening in the marriage and what their needs were, they came to the place that they needed to come to. And that was the decision of having to get a divorce. It sounds like once they were able to come to this place, sure, there was sadness, and it sounds like deep sadness, and probably even grieving the relationship that they had. But they were also able to find some stillness. At the end, she says that she's not mad and that she has no hard feelings over this. So again, when those things start to bubble up, things that sometimes we're not ready to deal with, we're not ready to sit with, and it feels like it's pulling us in a different direction. Once we're able to sit with that and share that with our partners, we can come to the truth that is brewing right underneath the surface. And again, for this couple, that happened to be a separation or a divorce. Well, my friend, that is all I have for this video. If you have found it useful or helpful in any way, please hit that like button down below. If it stirred something up in you, please drop a comment. I would love to hear the comments on this subject, maybe even start a conversation about it. If you want more content like it on a weekly basis, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye for now.